Yeah, I like what you said though in the background, because again, I like that de-escalation piece where I might think I can take this officer by myself. I might be able to quick draw my gun, but when I look over the officer's shoulder and I see a Tesla robot standing there, it doesn't even have to it doesn't have to be armed. It just could be standing there. You know what I mean? Just slightly offset, just watching, even with a big smile when you look at it.
That's
But
even creepier. That's worse.
yeah, exactly. Hello. You're like, all right, all right. I'm done. Just think about that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that canine unit sitting next to the police officer, where a bad guy may have thought of running and looks over and sees that wolf. Ah, can't outrun that.
This is Corey Jones with the Be Ready with Safetyman Podcast. Join us every week for a new podcast. Follow us everywhere podcasts are played and on YouTube. Be Ready with Safetyman. This is Corey Jones.
All right. We're live.
It's
We're live.
time.
It's time. What's up? What's up, Corey?
I'm still recovering from the Tyson fight.
I financially did well in the Tyson fight. I put some legal bets in
Good.
on some legal sports betting sites, and I did very well because I thought that I knew Jake Paul was going to destroy him. I'm like, Father Time is undefeated, and just there's no way,
No truer words spoken. Father Time is undefeated.
Yeah, I mean we know the older you get, everything
Oh,
your mind tells you can do it.
yeah.
Your body's like, well, hold on there.
Slow your roll. Pump the brakes.
But yeah, but before we jump into it, a quick read here.
Hmm?
Buzzleshopping.com. Make sure you guys check that out. Buzzleshopping.com. They're helping sponsor a little bit for our editing purposes, and they're a new social media app that combines shopping and social media into one, helps you save money and stay connected with your friends and see what they're buying. And you can actually make a little money if you put your purchases up and people buy your things as well. So it's pretty cool the way it works. It's free to sign up, doesn't cost you anything. There's no subscription cost. And check it out for yourself at buzzleshopping.com. All right.
Buzzle.
The buzz, though. This is the buzz, and I thought this would be a good thing to talk about today. Future trends in policing technology.
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna go so far. I mean, I'm just gonna let the cat out of the bag. I see robots like from RoboCop, like just around the corner.
Yeah. I got the list. So we're gonna do our top 5, and we're gonna break down each one. But you kind of gave a hint because that is gonna be one of them. That is definitely gonna be one of them. We're gonna get into that.
No way.
I think here before we get into it, I think really though, like the future is here, right? It's like the technology is in place. It's just a matter of making that practical in the police world.
Practicality is good. Like you said, the future's here. The younger generation in policing is very used to technology and so forth. I mean, my kids probably could, invent another Xbox if I gave them the time and a little bit of financial backing. So, yeah, you're right. It is here.
Yeah, and so I think, I'm just gonna jump into it because this is my first one, and I think this, like I said, this is already here. AI is already here.
Yeah.
AI is here, and I think that it is going to take over a lot of jobs in the police world. But when I say that, people get scared when they hear AI is going to take over more jobs. I think they're going to take over more jobs, but they're not going to replace people, if that makes
Right.
sense, because people are just going to be moved to handle different situations, in my opinion. But I think AI, some of the jobs that are being done by patrolmen right now, I think is going to be completely taken over sooner than later.
Yeah, especially the stuff that's inside the station, that back end stuff. I mean, nothing's going to replace a trained officer responding to a 911 call or an emergency in progress. I hope. I still want, I don't want a robot showing up if I don't necessarily need deadly force or, I want firefighters to come in and talk to me, look at me. I want a 911 operator to be human. It's used to reading the stress in my voice. I think. I
Yeah.
think. I just had to cancel a doctor's appointment, and 75% of it was AI. It was good. I knew it was AI, but it was good.
Yeah, I think that's going to be. This is why I put this first because AI is already there, and I think it's going to be the first practical step that's going to happen. And I think what you're going to see, and it's probably already existing in some forward-thinking departments already, it's like a lot of the mundane stuff. So, like, you walk into a police station to make a report, right? There's a lot of stuff that AI can do that takes time away from things that, like, for example, you go in, there's this computer screen right there, and you can start typing in the information. You can record your statement right there on a video screen. You can scan your license. You can get all your biometrics, your information, all that process. So now when the officer's called in off the street, okay, they already have a full report. What's going on? They already have a recorded statement. They already have all the initial stuff done. And now you take that information, puts it into the complaint, and now you're basically a user where you're just kind of overlooking everything and go, okay, that makes sense. That's right. I have to follow up some questions here, for A, B, and C, but all the initial stuff's done. So by the time you walk into the station and answer that call, 80% of the stuff's already done.
Right. And as a citizen, you're going to be sitting in that lobby waiting regardless. So it's going to utilize that time for everyone's advantage. The AI can be in the background and already look and see if your suspect information, as you said, your biographical information is already in there. It can pull and put stuff together and say, oh, we've already had, maybe it doesn't give you this information, but the investigators can already have that information where as you start typing in the address, like, oh, we've had 3 other package steps, right? In that same neighborhood within 100 meters, 100, kilometers, whatever it is of that location. It can already start putting that together so that can help prioritize that officer's response.
Yeah, and that's a great thought there, because predictive productive policing, PPP, predictive productive policing, because I work in a smaller department, so there's a lot of good communication. But for bigger departments, I mean, think about it like this, right? If you're in a massive department, I'm sure there's information that goes out, but if you're on a different shift, you might not know right away about the package thefts that happened 3 days ago, or, the little mundane stuff. You're obviously going to know about the bigger stuff, but, until you go through every informational report there or incident, you might not have all the information. So AI can take that, like you're saying, and say, oh, this already happened at this time frame, and now can start matching things up, and now it gives you a package of saying, hey, this, and this, and now I've noticed this is always happening on Tuesday afternoons at 3 o'clock. Alert, maybe look into this for the detective bureau, and sends a message to them.
Yep.
So it's like the best secretary you could ever imagine, basically.
Exactly. And doesn't need a lunch break. It doesn't call out sick. Doesn't get an attitude. Like all the human factors that they talk about. I know that's a big phrase today. Human factors. It's going to eliminate's going to be a strong word because there's still going to be a learning curve on both ends, right? On a bunch of ends. Management's going to have to determine. The populace is going to be like, wait a minute, I don't want to put all this information in there. I'm writing it down in a notebook that I'm going to maybe leave at the dry cleaners, probably more secure in this front end to back end secure database, right? And I don't want to, pull too many band-aids off because then we're going to talk about information security a little bit. But it's going to be, as long as we promote it properly to the populace, sorry for that alliteration, but predictive, productive policing, promote it properly to the populace and get them ready for it. Just kind of like No Shave November. 25 years ago, you'd have never thought of No Shave November, a police officer with tattoos and a beard. Oh my, I'm not going to talk to that person. And now it's not a big deal.
Yeah. And I think the other way AI is going to play a part right away, I'm like I said, this is near future stuff. I'm not doing 300 years in the future.
Mhm.
I'm talking about if you're a patrolman that's starting now, this is in your lifetime span. That's kind of the thought of today's podcast. I think the next thing you're going to see too is real-time alerts of things happening, which already happen a little bit. Like sometimes you go to a call and you go to an address and information will pop up like, hey, whatever. But I think this will go deeper, and it'll be able to tell you like, hey, you were out here 10 times in the last 2 years, and be on alert for this, and this. And this is also possibly connected, it's going to be able to analyze all that information. As soon as the call comes out, analyze it, give you a quick synopsis. So before you even pull up to the scene, you're going to be able to read for about 10, 15 seconds and be like, really be informed about what you're about to be walking into possibly,
Yeah. There's a couple of years ago, I was on Fox News commenting on an officer involved shooting in Philadelphia. And because Philadelphia is such a big city and this call overlapped at least 2 operational periods between midnight shift and day watch, when day shift finally got there the last time, there was an officer involved shooting resulting in the death of a citizen. Police had been out there at least twice in that 24-hour period for disturbances, for threats and so forth, but not those 2 specific officers. And not necessarily that 911 call taker, not necessarily that emergency dispatcher. So we got a caller, a dispatcher, a call taker, and officers who all have to be in the loop. And we would like them to be in the loop real time. And this is a case where not everybody was in the loop real time. Otherwise, those officers could possibly have adjusted their response posture, maybe waited for backup. There was some question of whether tasers, would have been helpful in that situation. Possibly. More officers, possibly. A distraction, canine, being able to clear the area, put medics on standby, all the different things that we do. That information could have been happening real time, regardless of who was receiving it, because the AI would be in the background, as you alluded to, analyzing, putting it, and cherry picking it.
Yeah, and again, I think this is coming sooner than later. It's just a matter of, unfortunately, we know with the police world that we're way behind with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I love seeing all the technology out there, and I love thinking about it and discussing it and talking about it. But I know realistically things like budget, things like practicality, a new advanced system trying to sell that to a small department that doesn't have a huge budget. That's already, a fix that's going to be something they're going to, where can we get this money from to pay for this? So that's going to play a part into it.
Exactly. One last thing on AI.
Yeah.
There's a company that I'm working with called Revelin.ai, REVELEN.ai. And what we do is near real-time analytics of shell casings that can be found anywhere. It could be at a crime scene. It could be celebratory gunfire. It could be an officer's on foot patrol and finds some handgun round shell casings on the ground. We can literally scan that into a database and using artificial intelligence, do ballistic tool mark examination on that. And if it gets a probability, or as we like to call a hit in law enforcement, it then will wake up an actual tool mark examiner and send those pictures there so that actual tool mark examiner, trained by the ATF, former ATF, and give you a much more timely, accurate, actionable intelligence. So while you as an officer, you as a detective are out at that scene, you can get real intelligence as opposed to having to package that up and then have somebody drive it to the lab on Monday and then have them stack it in a thing of things to look for. This is going to do it in real time, near real time. Within 15 to 20 minutes, you can get a high probability hit that this shell casing was also entered by another agency, another town, or your town at a different time frame. It's at Revelin.ai. Like you said, the future is here. We've already rolled it out on the West Coast and the East Coast. And like everything, the more input we get in, the more output the users get to help, reduce gun crime and put those doers in jail and take those guns off the street.
Yeah, so that's actually going to be one of my, that you brought up the other prediction. So that we'll make that number 2. And I think with that was the part 2 was artificial intelligence was the first one for predictive or working on policing like secretary stuff. The second one is in the field live, like we kind of said about rolling up the scene, but now actually policing. And by that, I mean, like you said, the gun alerts, like that's already in effect in a lot of cities where the gunshot goes off, it sends information, it analyzes that information in real time. And so now with the shell casings, being able to analyze that on the street, get quick answers to that kind of stuff as well. Now, do they photograph it or with
Yes.
just like a phone, or like is it through their
Literally
computer?
on an iPhone, we have a special proprietary lens that clips onto, and we supply the iPhone, or you could get a dedicated iPhone. It has nothing else in it. It's proprietary. It's user protected. We can make it as secure as body worn cameras if you want, with digital watermarks, whatever the agency wants for evidence management, whatever the state policies are, attorney general's guidelines, or whatever you just want as the end user. It could be tailored for that. And literally, yeah, it takes a bunch of pictures and it stitches them together using AI to find the best one. Because we have autofocus on our cameras as opposed to back in the old days with the 35 millimeter lens, trying to turn it for a half hour and take wasted pictures. This autofocus does everything for you.
Gotcha. Yeah, and man, we could do a whole show on just this artificial intelligence, but
Yeah,
I want to move on to some more stuff here. So this will be
yeah.
my number 3. Again, already in the field, but the level where it's going, I think, is why I brought in, and that is drones for rapid response.
Yeah.
It's already in the field. It's already helped out. I know personally, and I can't say too much about it, but it's already helped out personally in some situations. This is great if you have large areas you need to canvas quickly. They pick up heat signatures of people running. Think about it. Years ago, we watched this awesome helicopter footage. I love watching the helicopter footage when the guy gets out of the car and he's running. He thinks no one's watching him, and he's hiding behind a corner and the helicopter's up there, like got a spot on him. It's
Yeah.
like now that was only in like LA and New York, but now it's like every department is going to have that ability of tracking, finding people for that. The one thing I think is cool, and I don't know if I'll be able to bring this clip up because it might get copyrighted, but I'll see if I can find it. Blade Runner, the movie, the one, not the original one, but the one that came out a few years ago with Ryan Gosling. There's a cool scene when he rolls into, he's doing a murder investigation on Dave Bautista. He rolls up to the scene, and on his car, on the top of the car, is a drone, and it shoots up right away, and he tells it, like AI or whatever, the computer system, and he's like, do a full scan of the place. So as he's like in there interviewing the suspect, the drone is doing work while he's there. It's scanning the whole perimeter. It's looking for a dead body. So it's scanning the grounds. It's looking for like a burial plot area. It's also got real-time footage of him. So if he needs backup, someone else can watch that. And I think you're going to actually see that possibly happening where, for example, you pull up to a car stop, the drone gets up, does a full circle around the car, gets a scan of the front, the back, everything, has a full digital image of the person driving before you even walk up to the vehicle. It's going to have all this documented. So if that car takes off or does something, it's, because you have your body camera and your car camera, but that only picks up the rear end of the car. You don't see if there's damage on the front. You don't see if there's a different license plate on the front. You don't see how many people are in the front of the car, maybe. So having a quick digital scan in like a split second, I think that's really what's coming next in terms of that.
So think of how that could also be a great tool for de-escalation. If I'm a bad guy and I get pulled over by the police and I'm thinking about ambushing them, destroying evidence, doing something that's going to make it less likely, less safe for the officer and less likely that he or she's going to be able to arrest me. But now I see this drone with night vision, heat seeking, and a flashlight in my eyes, right on my windshield, right out my driver's side window, identifying me, talking to me. This is the police from such and such municipality. Please put your hands on the steering wheel and remain motionless for your safety. The officer will be with you in a moment. And just stays right there. Think of how that's going to interrupt your plan to do whatever you're going to do as a bad guy.
Yeah. And, first alert, like it gets up there first and sees that you have a handgun on your lap, or sees it. The AI in there can technically see, okay, that is a handgun. I mean, we already know that there's software that already can identify weapons and bullets, like you just said. So able to identify that and send an alert to the officer before he even steps out of the car.
Yep.
That's massive in saving police lives in the future, I think. Because, we know that car stops are not the deadliest, but they are one of the deadliest things that people have to deal with because there's the unknown.
Exactly.
You're walking into an unknown.
Exactly. You're 100% right. And it now allows you as the officer to now focus. You don't have to worry about getting run over by a car. Maybe you could actually call the driver out. That drone could also maybe put on some holographics or some sort of flashing lights to, at the last minute, keep vehicles from running into you. Maybe it could, like you said, have real-time footage of you and automatically call for backup if it determines something. You go take it off in the woods, you're not exactly sure where you are. That drone goes up 100 feet and puts a beacon up there so responding officers can come find you.
Yeah, and just putting out live feed GPS of where you're running to, where you're going, so that way, you're not that guy on the mic like, I'm on there, I'm where, you're like, I don't know where I'm at, because things happen quickly and you're like, I don't know where I am. I'm somewhere in this area, but the GPS will be able to give you exact coordinates, keep a light on you, follow you exactly where you're at,
Yep.
And I think, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say within the next 5 years, like every police department will have a drone. Everyone, it might not be to the awesome extent of heat and night vision, but a minimal, like a basic drone, like every department's going to have it within the next 5 years. I mean, you're probably going to see some grants coming down and things like that, but drones are the next biggest thing because they're already here. It's just a matter, again, implementing them, budgeting for them, and then making them practical.
Yeah.
My number.
What do we got next?
This is my number. Well, technically, it's my number 4 now. I'm sorry. This is my number 4. This. Crap, my voice cracked. This is one that I thought we were going to have by now because they exist, but I thought they were going to be in the field by near the end of my career. I thought they were going to be, again, I just don't think the technology has caught up with practicality, and that is augmented glasses, smart augmented glasses. They exist. Meta has glasses out now. They've been around. Google made the first ones that came into the widespread market. They didn't really click off. But I just think that I still think it's going to happen. It's like the electric car. It was just before its time. It hasn't really caught up to itself until, nowadays with Tesla and everything like that. But there was many years where it just didn't connect. I think there's so much to do with augmented glasses, being able to decipher different languages in real time, and as you're reading stuff, pick up stuff and information, scan situations, like you said, be able to scan, like just look at a bullet or look at a vehicle and tell you right away that's a whatever this is, or a Toyota, or this
Yeah.
is, because in a split second you might just glance at it as it's flying by and you're like, I don't know what that was. The glasses will be able to see that right away, analyze the information
Yeah.
faster for you.
And that's already there. Half of that technology is already there in the ALPRs, automated license plate readers. What's the closing distance on those? Like 100 miles an hour. It
Yeah.
can read, like in traffic, a bunch of tags real time and photograph the car and run it, right? I mean, depending on how much we are worried about the balance between privacy concerns and real time data and so forth, you can do it. You can accomplish a lot. Like you said, in a glance, you got everything over there. And then in worst case scenario, you glance over there and there was something that, man, I wish I would have paid attention to that. It's not even attached to what I'm doing now, but because we're in the time frame, we're in the time zone, just like people's Ring video doorbells and so forth being asked, law enforcement agencies are asking you to submit them because maybe you caught something that affected your neighbor across the street and you didn't even know you did it, but that data is there, and being able to merge that together real time or near real time.
Yeah, and I think that it's coming. I think I just, my predictive mind was like 10 years ago. I thought by this point, like all cops are going to be wearing glasses, smart glasses, and it just hasn't got there. I think it's still going to come there. Being able to look at maps and layouts as like, you hit it, hey, I need a map layout, and then augmented reality, it's going to tell you turn by turn which way to go as you're driving 85 miles per hour to a hot call. You have information popping up, a GPS that's giving you information. I think honestly, and I'll go out on a limb, and I hope I watch this video in 5-10 years from now and I'm right. I think that either contacts or digital glasses are going to replace radios altogether. I think all the radio information, because you already have Bluetooth. Now you might have to have a phone in your pocket or something in your pocket to kind of send the information to that. But my Meta glasses, they already have like a speaker in there, and it's crazy because nothing in my ears, just like they're like these. I should have brought them. I forgot. I should have brought them down when we were doing this. But if someone calls me, I can have a full conversation with you, and I can be standing next to like my wife, and she can't hear it. It's crazy. It's like right
Yeah.
here. It's like your AirPod in your ear where you can hear it and someone else can't. But it's on the glasses on the outside, and you would think that people can pick up on it, and they can't. It's really crazy.
Yeah. Bone induction, right?
Yeah, and so I think that something to this extent is going to replace radios. Like, you're not going to have radios on your chest, these big bricks anymore. Somehow my radio keeps getting bigger. I thought by now I was going to have this. I'm like, why do I have this? It's like a brick. It keeps getting bigger. What's happening here? So
there's a tipping point, right? There's a tip. We also got to make it cop proof, right? It's got to be, cop proof. It's got to be able to hold a charge because we drop and break everything.
Yes.
So that's going to be the big hurdle. And I think the military is testing a lot of this stuff out now with the 21st Century Soldier Program. And, they're testing that with a lot of helmet mounted things. F-35 pilots have custom helmets where they have that heads up display that's superimposed on their visor, where they can see target weapons, fly the aircraft, talk, do whatever they need. I think it's like a $6 million helmet. So I think we got to bring that cost down to about $60 a unit. But
yeah, because Chief's not going to get the joke if you're breaking $10,000 glasses every other week. Like,
no, not going to be good.
That's going to be a full-time job. There's going to be a guy that just replaces glasses and lenses. That's going to be like a full-time officer job in the future.
Yeah.
Like I said, AI is going to take the spot of one thing, but then you're going to have another guy that's going to have to do the repairs and things on this job now. So it's like, it's just going to move from one field to another. And I not to get too much off topic, but, I think about it like this, right? 20, 30 years ago when the internet was starting to boom, people were so scared that like every job was going out the window at that point. They're like, oh, jobs are going there. And what happened? The opposite. It actually created more jobs to deal with all these situations and all these computers and all. It created a whole new industry. And I think that's, like I said, police work's going to shift. You're still going to have police. They're just going to be doing different things for the most part. That's, that's kind of the way I see it.
100%.
My last one, and this is the one you started with, is the robots. You know, you seen the new Tesla robot?
Yeah, I wish I hadn't. It's kind of creepy.
So I mean, like I first think, how far away are we from this? What's it going to look like? Are we going to see robots? I mean, there's already like these like patrolling robots. I see in parking lots and things. They're like
Yeah,
drones. They're like moving drones, basically.
yeah.
Um, but they're not physically like engaging robots where something could place you under arrest or
No.
tase you or
Right.
or do real time assistance and things like CPR. It's so. How far away do you think that is?
It's going to be wild because, like, as we alluded to, that segmented technology is there. We have, conducted energy devices that you can remotely take somebody into custody. We have, thermal imaging, night vision. We have AI that's real time comparing information. And then we have these mechanical robot humanoid type platforms that can probably theoretically be made to do all that, but not. That'd be like a jack of all trades. We still need that human interaction. We still need that ability to that's going to be hard detecting a lie, detecting deception, detecting true fear. Are you the criminal, or are you the victim, or are you the hostage? So I think once we can start to perfect these little bits and put them together, is a long way around. It's going to be a minute if we have a robot walking around saying, "Dead or alive, you're coming with me."
I I think I think it's going to start as they're going to be assistants.
Yeah,
You're not. I don't think you're going to have just in the next 10 or 20 years. I don't think you're going to have a robot show up to your door by itself. But I could see it being in the background.
yeah,
If there's a foot pursuit, that thing takes off after you first. It catches you first.
yeah,
It's got to go get something out of your car. I need this for life saving. Go grab this real quick. Goes and grabs something real quick.
yeah. Or
Hey,
make it do compressions. Make it do compressions endlessly, right?
yeah,
It
yeah.
could do
So
CPR all by itself.
I think that we will see them. The bigger cities will probably flex on it first, like LA and New York. Like, oh, we got one of these, but it'll be more of show at first. Like
Yeah.
to show what it can do, but it's not going to be practical. I think we are at least 20 years, I would say, until they're like actually showing up to your door.
Yeah, I like what you said though in the background, because again, I like that de-escalation piece where I might think I can take this officer by myself. I might be able to quick draw my gun, but when I look over the officer's shoulder and I see a Tesla robot standing there, it doesn't have to be armed. Just could be standing there. You know what I mean? Just slightly offset, just watching, even with a big smile when you look at it.
That's
But
even creepier. That's worse.
yeah, exactly. Hello. You're like, all right, all right. I'm done. Just think about that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that canine unit sitting next to the police officer, where a bad guy may have thought of running and looks over and sees that wolf. Ah, can't outrun that.
Last thing I'm going to throw. This isn't a prediction so much. This is like replacement prediction because it's already here. I think this generation now of new officers are going to be some of the last officers that are going to learn to drive. Um, you know, the autonomous vehicle is here, and we know, right? Number one, reason for police deaths is car accidents. It's
Yeah,
still
motor
number
vehicle
one to this
crashes.
day. It outdoes gunshots and it's car accidents.
Hmm.
It's still number one, and I think you're going to see, maybe some kind of manual override. But I think you're going to see a lot of patrol officers like won't even have access to like driving the vehicle. It's just going to do it now. Again, a little bit far out, but I think this generation for the next 10, 20 years, this will be the last generation of officers that will be like fully doing evoc and all that stuff. As crazy as it to think that that's not going to exist, but I don't think it is going to exist in 25, 30 years. Driving a car will be like owning a vinyl record player.
Yeah,
Only
yeah,
only us weird people will still be doing it, right? Like
yeah.
I told.
But all the chiefs of police, like you alluded to earlier, will be probably happier because we're not going to be bumping into stuff, right? Because I one officer bumps into one parking abutment, that's 3 hours of police work down the drain right there. 3 hours of my day as a supervisor was down the drain. Go out there and take stupid pictures of it. Now, if I got a full self-driving police car, like you said, now that officer can be making plans, whatever he or she needs to do to get to our emergency, ready to go. Not that stress of driving, like you said, if the AI can map a route and go there at the speed limit with no lights and sirens, that's safer for everybody too. If it can time the lights, if it can control the lights, if it can be hooked into the grid
Yeah.
and do all those different things, so it takes priority, and then knows where the other police cars are and the ambulance and the fire truck, and gives all that priority. And then you can go even some further that now all other cars that are on the grid, your car, my car, private vehicles, start to realize, okay, coming up on your 6 o'clock, it's a priority vehicle, move to the right.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to worry about sirens, and it gives everybody that same alert. Just like our mapping thing says, please check ahead, road construction ahead. So like you said, all this technology is there. It's just putting it into one thing, making everybody comfortable with it, and getting it done.
I'm excited to see it, but unfortunately I'll be watching from the sidelines, like you are. But well, obviously, in the future, hopefully we can maybe interview some people about some of these things that are coming. I would love to maybe have some interviews of, a little bit of the advanced stuff, because I really love that stuff. I love listening and thinking about these ideas. And I'm a little sad I won't be able to use these things in practical life, but I'll be able to watch and see as they're happening.
I want to throw a potential grenade out there, though.
Uh,
There's a company that I saw on YouTube that actually has made a smart weapon where it's used the biometric of your fingerprint, and it can, as soon as you pick the gun up, it reads your fingerprint and it locks it, so only the registered fingerprints can actually make that gun go. So I know there's a lot of people that are like, no, not on my gun. That's going to fail during an emergency or so forth. But I just kind of wanted to throw that out there and see what people's thoughts are on it. Love to hear read those comments.
Let's get some comments on it, and then let's do a future episode of just weapons, future weapons. We'll do a full podcast on just future weapons, smart guns, future weapons. We'll do a whole thing on it in maybe a month or two. We'll get some information. And then I also want to talk about in a future episode, I know we're closing up here, because me and you started as a beach officer, correct?
Yeah.
So did I. So I would love to dive into that for a couple of reasons, because I bet you there's a lot of people that want to watch on how to get hired as a beach police officer and what to expect. And I think we could probably talk about that and really dive in. Now, I get that most of the country doesn't always have beaches or shores, but a lot of places have lakes or tourist areas. So it's very similar of that like part-time seasonal work. So I would like to get into that in the future, and maybe we dive into the next podcast about that.
Yeah. And it'll be like January, February when we're doing that podcast. It'll be really ironic for us, right? Talk about beach officers, and I'll probably be looking out my window and it'll be snowing.
Yeah, but you know what, though? The good thing about that is that's when a lot of places do their hiring in December and January for the summer, because they do like the small 3-month academies or whatever they are. So it might be a good time where people are actually looking and want information about this. So it might actually be beneficial.
100%. 100%.
All right, so that's what we got. If we missed anything, or you have some ideas, or find something online, we could always do a part 2 of future technologies. So if you see something at home, feel free to comment down below. Send us a message. Corey, where can they reach you
at Safetyman CO on all social media. Let's try that again.
You had a little twang there. You're a little
I don't know where I think I'm from, but at Safetyman CO on all social media, Facebook, Instagram. I think I'm even on TikTok. Even if I'm not, I probably still am. So stay safe, be ready, and train now.
All right. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you on the next one.